Hello, friends. Um, I've been working on this video for some time now, so I'm going to be dropping this video. There's a video, for a couple of days now. I think that was since last week. There is a trending video that was going online that I saw. I first of all saw that video where I saw Peter Akah was going behind Obi, and he was doing some hand signals. That video trended for some times. People were, when I saw it, I said something is wrong. This is not cute, and it's not professional for Peter Obi's image, vying for the office of the presidency. So when I saw that clip, I just waited. Usually when I saw something that is controversial, I wait to see the reactions going on the net. Then after some 1 or 2 days, VDM did a video on the same particular video that this is wrong. And another person did another video, and that is why I said, okay, at least what I saw, other people saw it. So when VDM did that video to disapprove the taste of that particular video, so a lot of people were jumping onto that. It's like it's like they start causing a friction between Rattel, VDM supporters, and Obidient, especially Mama P, Peter Akah, and Dana. There's one guy called Dana. He made a video again where he was mentioning the qualifications, the education background of all this Peter Akah, Mama P, and the rest of them. So I said, okay, today I'm going to play that video, and I'm going to give you guys my own observations, my own opinion, and what I found that is wrong in that particular clip. Okay, so I'm going to play that video of Peter Akah, what he did behind Peter Obi. Okay, and then again, I'm going to play another video for, I think that was Dana. He made a video. I'm going to find that video. If I couldn't find it, I'll let it go. But if I find that video, I'm going to attach it. You guys watch that video, and I will come back and give you guys my response. So I want you guys to watch that video. All right? And I'll be right back.
Alright, so you see, I didn't want to talk about this video, but there's no way I'm going to ignore it because I've said this thing before. That the so-called campaign strategies that are supposed to be selling Peter Obi's market are dragging the spotlight with him. When I said this thing about a month ago, people felt like I didn't know what I was saying. Now, Peter Obi is a presidential aspirant for 2027 election. Not just an ordinary aspirant. He's a very strong contender for the presidential election that is coming in a few months, right? So therefore, the likes of Mama P, Randy Peters claim to be his campaign strategist. But there's one thing about them. They always want to drag the spotlight with him. Therefore, they don't give their principal officer the clout that he needs. Now, make it make sense that you and your principal, you people are working, and somebody try to take a video of your principal. Somebody try to take a picture of your principal. Instead of you to step aside, you are dragging the spotlight with him. Therefore, a presidential aspirant, you do purr for him back. It remains small, make you do clock it with him ear. Small thing remains for the clocking it with Obi ear. But of course, that will not be the first time he's doing it. That's why Obi got irritated and told him to move. But there's something Randy Peter did when Obi said move. You know what he did? A lot of you did not see that part. Randy Peter sized Peter Obi from head to toe. I swear to God, that was the part. It's not even that they chased him away, that's my problem. Immediately Obi did him like this, like move, 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 move. He now did like this. Like he literally did like, he looked at Obi from head to toe. The sea finish. Like the sea finish, the audacity. But of course, it's Peter Obi that will blame for that. It's Peter Obi that will blame for that. It's size him. It's size Obi. It's size Obi. Then Obi even had to use his hand to push him. It's embarrassing. And then at a point, Obi can't turn back because he no one follow our waka. Obi had to turn back. Shenanigans. I've been saying
there is a legitimate campaign management issue here, but I would be very careful not to turn one viral video into proof Peter Obi is unserious. There was a lot of recent viral episode involving Peter Obi and Peter Akah that generated social media debate about their interactions or what happened behind the scene, behind the clip. But I would not conclude from video alone that Obi personally recruited everybody around him, that these people represent his formal campaign organizations. That distinction is crucial. This is my political advice to Peter Obi. The time for movement, politics is over. Peter Obi now faces a very different challenge from 2023. In 2023, being surrounded by passionate young supporters, with political useful. The spontaneity was part of the movement. That was in 2023. The informal atmosphere helped create the Obidient phenomenon. People did not need permission to campaign for Obi. They made videos. They create enemies. They create not enemies. Sorry, pardon me. They create memes. They followed him to every event. They defended him online passionately. They turned themselves into unofficial ambassadors. And that grassroots energy was one of the most remarkable features of Obi's 2023 campaign. But here we are in 2027. 2027 is different. I want you guys to listen to me carefully, please. After watching that video, if Peter Obi genuinely intends to win the presidency, he cannot continue to look like merely the leader of a powerful internet movement. I said internet movement. He must increasingly look like a president in waiting, and that requires a change in presentation. I've made videos severally on this. First, don't confuse loyalty with professional campaign. This is where I would defend people like Peter Akah and Mama P. Their supporters would say, why are you attacking people who have stood with him, Obi, when others abandon him? That's a fair argument, friends. Peter Akah has publicly and consistently expressed support for Obi, Kwankwaso, and the 2027 project. His online activity shows that he is an energetic political activist rather than someone who merely appeared around Obi yesterday. Likewise, Akah and Mama P have publicly presented themselves as crucial committed to speaking about governance, including after the EFCC questioning in July. So I would not advise Obi to humiliate, abandon, or publicly disown these people simply because they are informal supporters. That would be a mistake. The problem isn't necessarily the people, the problem is the structure. A presidential campaign cannot operate indefinitely like a social media movement. Secondly, Obi needs to create a clear distinction between supporters and campaign staff. This is probably my most important recommendations. Peter, we should establish 3 clearly identifiable cycles. Cycle 1, the formal presidential team. These people should have defined responsibility. For example, chief of staff, stroke campaign director, director of strategy, director of policy, director of communications, director of media relations, director of digital campaign, director of grassroots mobilization. That should be in cycle 1. Director of youth engagement, director of women mobilization, director of security, director of legal affairs, All right. Director of fundraising, director of research and intelligence, director of scheduling what? Obi's movements, campaign movements, director of protocol. This should be professionals. These people in this cycle one should be professionals, not necessarily famous people, not necessarily influencers, not necessarily his closest friends. Competence should determine access. If you're seeking for office of the presidency, your competence should determine access. Thirdly, let's go to the cycle two, political allies. In this cycle two, they are political allies. This will include party officials, governors, legislators, former public officials, traditional leaders, okay, civil society figures, okay, labor leaders, professional groups, all right, and what again? Remind me, religious or community leaders, okay, and if possible, coalition partners. They can have access to Obi, the people on this cycle too. But they don't necessarily need to be physically beside him everywhere. People in cycle two can have access to Obi, but they don't necessarily need to be physically beside him everywhere. Let's go to 4, the cycle 3. The cycle 3 is the obedient movement. And this is where people like Peter Akah, Mama P can remain extremely valuable. They can be grassroots influencers, digital mobilizers, community organizers, campaign volunteers, content creators, youth ambassadors, public advocates. Their enthusiasm is an asset in this particular group. But they should not visually define, the presidency. Okay? This should not visually define their presidency. That is the distinction. Number 5, Obi should stop allowing the camera to define his presidency. Obi should stop allowing the camera to define his presidency. There is where the content presidential candidate criticism becomes important when they call him a content president. This is where the content presidential candidate criticism becomes important. I'm not saying the nickname is fair, but politically, perceptions matters whether you like it or not. A presidential candidate is judged not only by his policies, he is judged by who surround him, who he speaks to, how he responds to under pressure, how he dresses, how he conducts meetings, how his teams communicate, how disciplined his events are. In that news conference, there is no discipline in that event. And how serious the media treat him. And perhaps most importantly, whether he looks like someone capable of managing the Nigerian state. 6, the content presidential candidate label should worry Obi. The content presidential candidate label should worry Obi, not because it is necessarily true, but because opponents can weaponize that phrase. Imagine APC campaign strategies putting together a montage of Peter Obi laughing, Peter Obi surrounded by influencers, okay? People making funny gestures around him, behind him, supporters jumping around him. That is not visual political good. When you have people making funny gestures around you or supporters jumping around him, TikTok videos, street interviews, memes, no. Casual encounters, no. Then they say, okay, is this the man you want to be running Nigeria? Politics is all about perception. Politics is perceptions. The opposition doesn't need to prove that Obi is unserious. They only need to create a perception. And if Obi owns media ecosystems, supply them with the footage, they don't have to work very hard. So if Obi owns an media ecosystem, supplies them with the footage, they don't need to work very hard. It's what they see around you that is going to be out there. But there is other side of the argument also. There's a danger in becoming too presidential. There is a danger in becoming too presidential. If Obi suddenly becomes surrounded by men in suits, protocol officers, security officers, political elites, expensive cars, formal receptions, huge barricades, and careful scripted appearances, he could lose the very authenticity that made millions of Nigerians connect with him. That would be a mistake. The answer isn't become distant. The answer is to become disciplined. That is a difference. That is a difference. Discipline. Let's go to number 8. Obi need to keep the people but control the stage. Obi need to keep the people but control the stage. This is how I would put it to him privately. Mr. Obi, don't remove the people who built your movement. Professionalize the environment in which they interact with you. Okay? Let supporters meet him. Let young Nigerians interact with him. Let content creators document the campaign. Let the movement remain energetic. But when the cameras are focused on the presidential candidate, the environment should communicate. The environment should communicate what? Competence, authority, discipline, okay? Preparedness, seriousness. 9, Peter Akah should not be the problem. He could actually be part of the solution. This is where I would disagree with those calling for Obi to completely distance himself from Akah. Akah has demonstrated something many politicians desperately need: grassroots enthusiasm. He communicates directly with younger Nigerians. He produces content. He mobilizes supporters. He is visibly passionate. And his online presence shows sustained support for Obi's political project, which is very, very critical. But here is the problem. The problem is not why is Peter Akah around Obi. The better question is, what official role, if any, should Peter Akah play? If he's a campaign volunteer, say it. If he's a campaign volunteer, give him a defined volunteer role. If he's a digital mobilizer, give him a digital mobilization role. Okay? If he's a political candidate, let him concentrate on winning his own constituency. I'm coming to that. If he's simply a supporter, let him support Obi without appearing to function as part of Obi's official inner circle. That clarity will eliminate much of the confusion. And the same applies to Mama P and others. Don't turn them into enemies, but don't allow informal personalities to become, indistinguishable from official presidential staff. And the public should know, who speaks for Obi, who speaks for the campaign, who speaks for the party, who is simply a supporter. This is extremely important. There must be a line. Otherwise, someone can say something controversial tomorrow and the public will ask, was that Peter Obi's position? And the campaign will have to spend valuable time explaining the deficiency in those speeches. No, he's not officially part of our team. That is avoidable. That is avoidable. Obi need a professional spokesperson. And one of the weaknesses I have noticed repeatedly in the wider Obi political ecosystem is that too many people speak for the movement. That creates message fragmentations. Obi should have, one primary presidential spokesperson. And perhaps one deputy. Everyone else can comment as private supporter, but the official position should come from the designated communication team. That is how serious presidential campaign operates. You need a real war room. I've said it in about few of my videos. If you guys go to my page, see a few of my videos. You need a complete war room. Every political organization, competent, serious political organization, have a real campaign war room. Not a war room in the violent sense. A professional election command center. Every morning, the campaign should know what are Nigerians talking about, what is trending, what are the opposition parties saying, what is APC saying, what is ADC saying, what is Tinubu saying, what is Atiku Abubakar saying, what is PRP saying, what is Amechi saying, what are the state governors saying, what is Kwankwaso saying, what is the economy mode, what is happening in each state, what are the major security concerns, where is Obi getting support and where is he losing support, that is why you need a war room. A war room is the very vital component of an election participation, especially if you are seeking for the office of the presidency. What demography need attention so that you can tailor your message to that demography? What is presidential campaigning? Not simply producing viral videos. It needs a state-by-state electoral strategy. Obi need state-by-state electoral strategy. These are another major differences between movement politics and presidential politics. Obi cannot win Nigeria through Twitter or X. He cannot win Nigeria through Facebook. He cannot win Nigeria through YouTube. He cannot win Nigeria through enthusiastic young people alone. He needs, I repeat, he needs the 36-state strategy plus FCT. And each state need, polling data, tailored specific message, local leadership, ward coordinators, polling unit agents, all right? Now, women mobilization, also young and old mobilization team, Okay? Youth mobilizations also is very important. They will have the religious and community outreach, traditional leadership engagement. Okay? Election day logistics. And again, legal response team. And then the last thing on the list, if I didn't forget, is your vote protection strategy. That is what convert popularity into votes. Obi must learn the difference between virality and electoral power. I repeat, Obi must learn the difference between virality and electoral power. This is absolutely critical. A video with 5 million views doesn't necessarily equal 5 million votes. Okay? A 5 million votes. A Twitter trend doesn't equal polling unit organization. A viral speech doesn't equal voter turnout. All right? A room full of enthusiastic supporters doesn't equal national majority. Nigeria has over 93 million registered voters, and the 2023 election demonstrate how low participation can dramatically change the electoral arithmetics. So Obi needs to move from how many people watch us, okay, to how many people will actually vote for us and how can we protect those votes. Obi also need to look beyond the Obidient movement. He needs to look beyond the Obidient movement. This is a politically uncomfortable but essential. This is politically uncomfortable but essential. I believe you guys are following my analysis. The Obidient movement is passionate. But passion is not enough to win a presidential election. Obi needs Northerners, Southerners, Muslims, Christians, pagans, atheists, traditionalists, young voters, older voters, okay, rural voters, city voters, or we'll call it urban voters, okay, business owners, workers, okay, farmers, okay, professionals, women, people who have never used social media before. The presidential candidate must increasingly communicate. Okay? I am not the candidate of the Obedience. I am the candidate for Nigeria. You must learn how to communicate. I am not the candidate of the Obedience. I am the candidate for Nigerians. That is a huge psychological transition. His campaign should look less like a fan club and more like a government in waiting. I've said this in some of my other videos. This is probably the strongest advice I will give to him. Imagine Nigerians watching an Obi event. They should see economic advisors, image matters, security experts, education specialists, agricultural experts, okay, energy experts, all right, foreign policy professionals, okay, constitutional lawyers, public health experts, technology specialists, all right, government expert, all right. This is who Obi should surround themselves. People watching you on a national telly. Then Obi speaks. Suddenly, Nigerians aren't just hearing Peter Obi will fix Nigeria. So when Obi finally speaks, they are not hearing that Peter Obi will fix Nigeria. They see the people who might equally help him fix Nigeria. That changes the political conversation. That changes the political conversation. He should publish a serious first 100 days plan, not slogans. Okay? Not slogans. Not Nigeria will be great. We've had this several times. Give Nigerians numbers. Give Nigerians numbers. For example, all right? For example, electricity. When you say electricity, what will be done with electricity? If you say security, what changes? The same thing applies to education. Okay? What budget? Healthcare, what targets? Agriculture, what reforms? All right? Taxation, what changes? Oil, what happens? Okay? Subsidy, what happens? Debt, what happens? Okay? Naira, what happens? Jobs, how many and how? Then tell Nigerians, judge me against these figures that I've just listed. Tell Nigerians, judge me against this. That is presidential. That is building confidence. That is stimulating the masses to risk their life and vote and defend that vote. Stimulate the voters, give them the confidence that you are ready for the job, and see the length the citizens will go. You need to accept that criticism is coming. If Obi wants to be president, he cannot expect everyone around him to be treated gently. His supporters will be scrutinized. His family will be scrutinized. His campaign team will be scrutinized. His finances will be scrutinized. His statement will be scrutinized. His associate will be scrutinized. His past will be scrutinized. His policies will be attacked. That is politics. The answer isn't to complain about the scrutiny. The answer is to become impossible to discredit. My balanced verdict on all this, stay tuned. My argument for the people around Obi, they represent the grassroots, they demonstrate loyalty, they help generate organic publicity, they connect Obi to the young Nigerians. Okay? They create viral content. They stimulate the conscience of the nations. They stimulate fears to the oppositions. They have helped sustain the movement beyond elections. People such as Akah, Mama P, Aisha, Idris have demonstrated public commitment to the Obi's political project, according to Punch newspaper. So removing everyone who is informal or unconventional could turn Obi into another distant politician. That would be a mistake. The argument against the current arrangement, the presidency is not a TikTok channel, not an X channel, not a Facebook channel, not a YouTube channel. It is not a comedy skit. It is not a fan club. All right? It is not an influencer gathering. Obi's candidacy must be taken serious. And when the candidate encouraged repeatedly become the story instead of the candidate policy, the campaign has a communication problem. I don't know if you guys understand what I said. When the candidates and entourage repeatedly becomes the story instead of the candidate, okay? Instead of the candidate, the story, then the campaign has a communication problem. Obi should be the storyline, not the entourage. The viral content presidential candidate criticism should therefore be treated as a warning sign, not necessarily because the criticism is fair, but because presidential campaign must control their visual narratives. When the camera is focused on you, behave. Now, this is my final advice to Peter Obi. If I were sitting across from Peter Obi as a political advisor, I would say, Peter Obi, do not throw away the people who carried your movement, but you must now build a professional structure around your movements. Let the activists remain activists. Let the content creators create content. Let the grassroots organizers organize. Let the candidates contest their constituencies. But your immediate environment must increasingly communicate the seriousness of the office you are seeking for. You are no longer trying to prove that you can become a popular candidate. You have already proved that before. Your next challenge is proving that you can become president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That requires a professional campaign organizations, disciplined communications, policy expert, national coalition building, state-by-state organizations, credible fundraising, election lawyers, polling agents, security professionals, and a clear governing agenda. Don't lose your humanity. Don't lose your accessibility. Don't lose your young people who believe in you. But don't allow the informality of the movement to undermine the seriousness of your presidency. The moment made Peter Obi famous. How Peter Obi must show Nigerians that he is ready to govern. Now, Peter Obi must show Nigerians that he is ready to govern. And that, in my opinion, is the real lesson from this viral controversy. The question shouldn't be whether Peter Akah should be allowed near Peter Obi. The question should be, who is running Peter Obi's presidential campaign? And does that organization look like a what? Government in waiting? If the answer is not yet yes, then Obi still has time to fix it. And with the 2027 elections approaching, he should fix it now. Not 6 months before Nigerians go to the poll. I mean now. I rest my case. Bye-bye.